Shabbat Shalom, everybody. The Talmud is a sacred Jewish book. It contains laws, legends, philosophy, theology, and the Talmud is a really, really long sacred Jewish book, 37 volumes. In the classic Shas printing edition, 2,711 pages. So if I said to you that everybody in this room would be capable of reading the entire thing, you would say, bye-bye, Rabbi, have a trip to Rabbi Fantasyland. But it's true, actually. There is a way that makes reading the entire sacred book of the Talmud possible. Rabbi Moshe Menachem Mendel Spivak proposed a crazy idea in 1923 called Daf Yomi. A daf is a page and Yomi is daily. And he put together a calendar of reading and said if everyone read 1 page of Talmud a day, you could finish the whole thing in 7.5 years. But really, if you're taking life 1 page at a time, it's not so hard, particularly in modern times when we have all sorts of YouTube channels and podcasts and online study groups to help us in our learning. And the Daf Yomi was not only meant to help an individual accomplish the goal of reading the entire Talmud, it was meant to unite the Jewish people. Picture, if you will, walking into the Jewish Community Center, as I did yesterday morning, and seeing an Orthodox man and a Reform woman rabbi both literally on the same page. Jews around the world are studying the same thing, and that creates something to talk about, a conversation starter. Rabbi Moshe Menachem Mendel Spivak proposed this idea almost 100 years ago, and he had no idea if it would take off or not, but he has left us this legacy of even Jews who've never read the Talmud before being able to do so. Legacy is the topic of my sermon today. Our ancestor Jacob is on his deathbed, and he's called his son Joseph because he wants to discuss and evaluate his spiritual legacy that he's leaving to his family. In chapter 48, verse 4, he starts to reminisce about his life, about a particular time when God offered Jacob a blessing. The blessing was, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, saying, I will make you fertile and numerous, making of you a community of peoples. Now, the Kli Yakar, a 19th century commentator, says that's a very strange blessing for Jacob at the time it was given. The blessing to be numerous and fertile, you'd think that would come before Jacob had his children as a promise that there would be offspring. But no, this blessing from God comes to Jacob when 12 of his 13 children have already been born, and his wife Rachel is pregnant with their son Benjamin. So what does it mean then to be fertile and numerous if that's not a prediction of the children that Jacob will have? Well, the Kli Yakar looks at the next verse, where Jacob says to his son Joseph, and your sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, shall be no less mine than my own children, Reuben and Simeon. It's not that Jacob's destined to have more offspring after he receives the blessing from God. That's already happened for him. What it's saying is that his values will live on not only in his children's generation, but his grandchildren's generation. He has succeeded in leaving them a spiritual legacy. And in fact, it's something that Jacob is anxious about, according to the Midrash, a rabbinic legend, about this moment in time, Jacob's deathbed. And it involves our most important sacred Jewish prayer and the most famous line of Torah that most Jews can recite, even in Hebrew, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So here's what happens, but keep in mind, what is Jacob's other name? Israel. So Jacob calls the children around him and he says, I have lived my entire life in relationship with our God, and I recognize that God is one, that there is one force that moves the universe, and I'm worried that that is not of value to you. And his children respond by saying, Shema Yisrael, listen up, Israel, meaning Jacob. Adonai Elokeinu Adonai Echad. God is one. We get it, Dad, and we're going to pass on your spiritual legacy. So every time you and I recite the Shema in our daily prayers and before going to sleep, we're reliving that spiritual legacy. There's a small group of us at Beth Torah who began the new Daf Yomi cycle when it started last Sunday. And some of us are learning Talmud for the first time, and all of us are learning more Talmud than we would if we said, we picked up one page. We said, I'll take it one page at a time. I'll try. And by the way, you're welcome to join us. It's never too late to start. And I wonder if Rabbi Spivak knew that when he started his legacy of reading one page at a time, it would affect our little community here in Richardson, Texas. We are part of the legacy, the Jewish legacy, of valuing study. Amos Oz, the famous Israeli writer, and his daughter Fania wrote a book about Jewish continuity, trying to answer the question of, how is it possible that such a small people who've been scattered around the world and faced so much adversity have been going strong for 3,500 years? And essentially, Mr. Oz and his daughter arrived at the answer of, Jews love their books, they study their books, and then they give those books to their children and they say, you love this book too. That's it. That's our continuity. The legacy of study is particularly Jewish, but I think that each of us has the opportunity to leave something good behind when we depart this world. So this Shabbat, take a moment before the sun goes down to talk to someone you love and to contemplate what it is that you wish to leave behind for the next generation and the generations yet to come. Shabbat Shalom.